Okay, part two. So I very quickly started saying to myself, well, if my goal of Grace Rose Farm is to really go back into the love of gardening, right? Like where we started 8 years ago, which was our love of gardening, how do I get there? And the most popular question I have gotten from the very beginning of our business, more than any other question, was, how can I buy the rose bushes you grow? Do you sell rose bushes? And for 7 years, it was no, 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 we don't sell rose bushes. And I'll tell you why. I'll be really honest and tell you why we don't sell rose bushes, why we didn't sell rose bushes. Because they weren't mine. There are a lot of vendors online, rose businesses, that buy wholesale rose bushes for $10, $12 bare root from the major rose providers, Weeks, Star, David Austin, certified, and they have them shipped to them in crates, right? And then they put them online and they sell them, and that's great. And I think that business is already saturated. Like, I don't need to be another business that orders, 5,000 of this type of rose and gets them in from my wholesale grower in January and then just opens the box and redistributes them to customers for 3 or 4 or 5 times more. That's just not, it doesn't feel like me. I'm not saying that it's not authentic to other businesses, but it's not me. And so I very quickly thought, well, how do I, without becoming a rose breeder, which is like a whole other thing, like we're not even gonna go there in this video, how do I offer people roses that aren't already on the market? And how do I achieve offering them something different than they already can get, right? So there are other garden roses that perhaps aren't on the market in the United States that I could, bring on the market, but they may have like sort of the same pitfalls, if you will, of the roses I already grow, meaning they are beautiful, they're fragrant, but they don't last very long, right? Like a dandelion on the plant. And I'm not trying to generalize. Like, some garden roses last longer than other garden roses. Like, I tend to grow the ones that have a longer base life, but it's still a very short base life. And so I said, well, you know what? I'm gonna get cracking on this, because if I can't offer the cut rose varieties in a greenhouse, maybe I can grow them outdoors and test them and trial them and find breeders that will believe in me, right? And say, yeah, we want you to grow our roses outside, like the commercial cut, like the Ashleys, right? The Ashleys, the Sabrinas, the Cafe Lattes, the white O'Haras, the pink O'Haras, right? Like these guys here, okay? That are commercial cut roses, and they have an outstanding base life, but they're grown in a greenhouse traditionally, right? And so I said, well, that's what I'm gonna do. And 3 years ago, I started contacting rose breeders in Europe, and I said, I'm a rose farm in California, and they said, oh, we know who you are. Because I'm not patting myself on the back, but in the rose world, I have the second largest online following after David Austin, right? And so they were like, oh, we know who you are. And I said, oh, you do? Really? Okay. Because I think I'm nobody, right? I'm just this girl in California that grows outdoor garden roses. Like, I'm not a serious commercial grower, like in terms of, these farms in Kenya and Ecuador and Colombia that produce millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of roses every year, right? And the breeders make money from them because they're paid on every stem sold. So they're like, oh, I know who you are. And I said, oh, well, you know what? I want to import your roses to the United States, and I want to offer them to gardeners. And they said, interesting, okay, that sounds great. And there's a bunch of them that said, absolutely, that sounds amazing. Because they want to sell plants, right? And they're going to make money. Every time I sell a bush, they're going to make a royalty. And so we started going down this process, and I had like about 1,000 varieties of roses that I wanted to import. No joke, about 1,000. And I very quickly ran into a very high wall, and that was importing the USDA and the fact that I'm not a licensed agent for any of these rose breeders. And so I've got Miyabi over here. So I imported some roses from overseas, and they arrived, here's Miyabi. They arrived in Los Angeles, and they're always inspected, right, by USDA when they come in, and because their freight is marked as cut flowers or plants or whatever, and the USDA confiscated my shipment because there were some like microscopic mites or something that couldn't be fumigated, and I ended up having to destroy the shipment. And I was very distraught because this was months and months and months and months of planning. It was thousands of dollars, and then I had to pay the USDA thousands of dollars to destroy my shipment, which was just like, And so I really kind of gave up on it. I said, well, if I can't import these myself and get around the USDA and get them into quarantine, like, what am I gonna do? Like, I don't know. Like, I've never done this. Like, I'm not an agent. Like, I'm just not an import agent that does this type of thing. And then I contacted one of my breeders in Germany, and she said, oh, well, let me just put you in touch with our US agent. He'll get you all the plants you want. Like, we're happy to supply them for you. Let me get you in touch with him, and he'll get you the plants. And I was like, oh, I wish you had told me that like a year ago when I started this process. And so that's how I met my partner, who is my silent partner who likes to remain nameless. And he and I are growing all these roses. And he has actually been growing these roses for a long time in his research and development fields. And he was already like, oh yeah, like I love this idea because I'm already growing these things. And like he didn't really have like a platform to bring them to market. Like I have the brand, and he's a grower. And so we just saw this like very clear path where, he has all these relationships with these breeders who have already said, yeah, we want to work with you. Like we're down, right? And we want you to supply our roses to the United States market, which have never, ever, ever been here. And my partner was their agent, licensed agent to bring that material into the country, and had already been trialing a lot of these roses. So he already was like, oh yeah, this is a winner, this is a winner, this is a winner, this is a winner. Like I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. Like this is like a marriage that is just meant to be. And so several years ago, we started our project, and we have about 500 varieties that are being trialed, and both in their research and development fields and at my farm, and over 500 varieties that we're going to be bringing to market over the next 5-6 years. So it's really exciting. And where I'm going with this is that I made sure that I had the licensing and the exclusivity and the trademark to be able to do this, because people have asked me for 8 years, like, why don't you sell roses? Why don't you sell the roses that you offer? And I'm like, because other brands do that, like other rose providers sell these roses. And I just really felt like if I'm gonna do something with offering bushes and offering plants, it needs to be my own thing, right? Like it's gotta be my thing. Like I have to have, the rights to do this exclusively, because if I'm gonna put all the effort and time and years and money into bringing these plants to the United States, right, which is a whole lot, and like the trialing and everything is a lot, then I need to be like the only provider of these roses. So that's what we did, and we're really excited about it. And we've got about 500 varieties trademarked that maybe some of them won't make it to market, some of them will make it to market, we'll see. But we are doing exciting things. And so the difference between these roses and the ones that I've traditionally offered, and like, so my estate bare root roses that I've been selling off, the big giants you all are getting in the mail, those are plants that are tried and true, traditional, heirloom, heritage garden roses, right? They're David Austin's, they're, Distant Drums, Coco Loco, they're all these roses that I grew for all these years, for 8 years, and my customers loved. They were all in weddings, very, very popular for, you know, that beautiful English country garden style. But now that like my business has changed focus. My business has changed focus to become a rose bush business, right? So I don't need 46,000 rose bushes, number one. I don't want that many rose bushes because if we're not cutting from them, which we haven't really like the last year and a half, why have them, right? And also we have some water restrictions here in California that we have to adhere to starting this year. And I wouldn't be able to water my roses at the same degree I used to last year or previous years starting this spring because of those water restrictions. So I really kind of said, all right, well, if I don't need these plants for my business model anymore, I'm not harvesting from them to the degree that I used to. We used to harvest about 100 to 130, 40,000 stems a week through our growing season, which is like 7-8 months of the year. And like even last year, we only harvested, I don't know, maybe not even 10,000 stems a week, just for some florists. And so if I don't need all these roses and I have water restrictions, I'm gonna sell them and I'm gonna send them off to new homes. So that's my big giant bare root roses that you all have been so wonderfully purchasing and we've been sending to you. That's the story of those. And then these new ones, which are our potted roses that are arriving in May this year, and then our bare root roses that are arriving this time next year, which are like already 50% sold out, which is scary. Because I'm not gonna have anything to sell like this autumn, which is like a little bit jarring because I know people are emailing, they're saying, well, I don't care that I'm not gonna get the plant for a year. I want it, I wanna buy it now, so I get it. And then I'm like, but I'm not gonna have anything to sell like during the real bare root season, which is like October, November, December next year, or this year for delivery now. I'm not gonna really have anything to sell, which is a little, you know, sad. But we'll figure that out. We may have a potted, we may be able to do some greenhouse potted ones. I think that's what I'm gonna shoot for, but we'll see. But anyway, so that's the difference. The difference is that these roses are commercial cut garden roses. Look at this guy. I'm like, you know, bam. But they are also, they can grow in your garden through us, right? And actually, I wanna tell you something. In the greenhouse, this rose grows as a single bloom because the growers pinch it. In your garden, they will grow in sprays. Beautiful sprays, all of them. White O'Hara, Pink O'Hara, any of the ones that we're offering will grow as sprays. This one didn't get into the water, lovely. They will grow as sprays. So I'm gonna see if I can rehydrate her. She just like didn't get into water and I feel bad for her. Sometimes when the girls put my roses in the buckets, the stems like get knocked out of the water. So we'll see if we can bring her back to life. What was I saying? These roses are unique to us. And we do have some garden varietals too. A lot of the Japanese roses that we're trying, about 85 varieties of Japanese roses. A couple of Chinese roses. They are garden roses, like traditional garden roses, and they won't be in our collection though until like 2025, so maybe 26. We really need to test those really, really well. So in any case, because they're much like not as widely grown as these other ones that have been growing in greenhouses for a long time, or my partner has been trialing them. So we really, really want to test the heck out of those varieties that are just like more obscure, more rare, more like no real grower around the world has a lot of experience with. Whereas like all of these, like there's a lot more experience with these roses, like with the commercial growers. And also my partner who has been growing a lot in his research and development fields. Okay, so that's the big difference. And that will lead me into the next topic, which is own root versus grafted roses. So I'm gonna do a part 3. We're at like 15 minutes. And I washed my hair yesterday and it's just like has no volume. I don't know, not a fan. Okay, so part 3 coming up.